Welcome to the show.
Hey y'all, got a really cool jam today. It revolves around this scale, the whole tone scale, with a major seventh. So the whole tone scale is just whole steps all the way up. But instead of doing that, we're going to add the major seventh. So it's 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, sharp 5, natural 7, and 1. And we are in B flat. So the first chord we're going to jam over is just outlining those notes. So it's a B flat major 7, sharp 5. We're going to check out that scale a little bit. To get familiar with these sounds really quickly on a jam that we're not as familiar with, like the whole tone scale with a major 7, is look for similarities with scales that we already know. For instance, this scale has all the sounds of A minor pentatonic if we simply change the G to an F sharp. We can use that pentatonic scale that gives us the same sound as this whole tone scale, but it might be more familiar to us and a little bit easier for us to wrap our brains around in the beginning. So of course we can add in that B flat note to give us that half step resolution that really creates that sound of that whole tone scale with the major 7. By adding that B flat note into that A minor minor 6 pentatonic. Another interesting thing about this B flat major 7 sharp 5 chord is that if we change the bass note to D, we'll find that there's a D major triad inside this chord. So we can play notes from a D major triad, something we should be pretty familiar with, and sound a little different over the chord progression. It's not going to give us some of those tension notes. It's not going to give us the exact sound of that whole tone major 7, but it is going to allow us to have pretty quick access to sounding good over this strange-ish chord with things that we're already familiar with. So, something like this. Always be looking for things that are familiar inside the unfamiliar. There are only so many notes that you can use, so even a strange chord like the major 7 sharp 5 chord still has this triad in it that's familiar to us, a D major triad. So it's a starting place when starting to think about a chord such as this. Even if you don't know the whole tone major 7 scale like we're talking about today, you still know D major triad. So you can still play some notes that are interesting and sound good on a chord that you're not that familiar with by looking for similarities between things that you already know. Now that we understand that there are some familiar shapes inside this strange chord, we can change up our progression a little bit from just keeping that static vamp to something that might be considered a cool chord progression just by changing the bass note. Something like this. got something out of this funky little chord and a little progression we came up with and this interesting scale that you might not have thought of before. Look for things that are common in complex progressions, things that you already know, things that you can already utilize right now immediately while you're learning other more complex scales. Thanks for joining me today. If you have questions or comments, feel free to leave them below or send me a message. I always appreciate a like, and if you'd subscribe to my channel, that would be great. I'm Chris Kopp from C Kopp Studios. Happy practice.